Welcome to this week's edition of VLGA Connect, brought to you by Hunt & Hunt Lawyers. Each week, as you know, we bring you the latest news, insights, interviews and discussions on issues of importance and interest to the local government sector, not only in Victoria, but nationally and across the globe. Our regular host, Chris Eddy, is currently away on leave on a cruise somewhere, I believe. And my name is Catherine Arndt. I'm the CEO of the VLGA, and I'm delighted to be with you over the next few weeks while Chris is away enjoying some much leave. Today on the program, Chris sits down with Don Henderson, Mayor of Hepburn Shire Council, to talk about the challenges and opportunities currently facing the Shire. Ryan Allott, Manager Compliance and Environmental Health from Whittlesea City Council, also joins us to talk about a great new initiative promoting responsible animal care and supporting the rehoming of stray cats in the local community.
My guest now on VLGA Connect is the third-term Mayor of Hepburn Shire Council, Councillor Don Henderson. Don, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Chris.
Good to have you here. You've been on the council since 2008, I believe, so the years are ticking by. Why do you keep doing this?
Well, because it's very worthwhile. And, you know, as much as people say that being on council can be very hard at times, the ability to get on there and do things for the community is something you can't do from the trenches. You've got to actually get in the front line and do things. And it's pretty rewarding.
Yeah. When you first put your hand up back in 2008, was that your first attempt to get elected to council?
No, I actually ran in the city of Melton.
Right.
And I'd only just moved to the Melton area, and I ran up against somebody who'd had generations of mayors, and he beat me by 32 votes, and he said, "Gee, I creamed you." And I said, "Gee, mate, you've been the mayor how many times, and you've had generational mayors. I reckon I've done pretty well, but never mind."
Who was that, Don?
A fellow named Charlie Watson.
Right.
It's a long time ago now. It's about the 1998 or 2000, somewhere back, just after the commissioners.
Right. Okay. So then sometime after that, you obviously moved to Hepburn Shire.
Yeah, well, I've always been in the Hepburn Shire. That's my
Yeah.
base. And, we came here as early settlers, and so I just moved back home. I'd been working in Melbourne.
And your particular drive to get elected to council, what was that about?
Well, I didn't really like the way the council was running at the time. And I thought, well, it's no good complaining. I'll do something about it. And so I managed to do that.
Yeah. So as we said, 2008, and you're now in your third term as mayor. How have you seen it change over that nearly 2 decades as a Hepburn Shire councillor?
Well, we've changed from just going along as a councillor and having the money to do projects to very lately in the last few years, and I'd say from 2019, rate capping caught up with us, and we found we had to do a lot more with less. We've got a community that, if you like, expected to get their projects done, and they have great expectations, Chris, and of course the money didn't match, and it took a while for that rate capping to catch up to us.
Yeah, and flash forward to this year, you're the only council. Indigo has gone for a higher rate, but it's not your typical straight out increase in collection of rates. But yours is. You're the only one. That's a pretty big step for a council to take in this environment.
Well, it is, and we did back before the elections. So in June last year, if you look back at the council meeting, we said it was unfair. The incumbent council said it was unfair, not just to go to an election telling everyone things were fine. So we actually put that into focus before the election. So we didn't want candidates running on a no rate increase platform and being embarrassed.
Yeah. And it's turned out that you've been granted the higher rate application. Why do you think the ESC looked favourably upon your request?
Well, I think it was a great submission, and we demonstrated the need. I mean, you've got to demonstrate the need to be able to get it. It's not a walk-up start. I can assure you it was a
Yeah.
difficult and a fairly long process to get all of the ducks in a row. We had to establish that we had some borrowings because the government wants to borrow. So they look at all those things, whether you've got the capacity to borrow, but more especially, do you have the capacity to pay it back? And of course, we didn't have, and so they approved it. And it's a one-off. It's well, look, it'll go on to the rates next year and the year after, but
Yeah.
it'll only the 7% will only happen one time.
With a one hit, yeah. So, do you believe that work you did before the election has paid off now in terms of community awareness and, I want to say, acceptance of the need for the higher rate?
Well, Chris, I get more phone calls about the introduction of the dog and cat. We now charge $300 to release dogs and cats, and I've had more phone calls about that than I have about the rate increase.
Really?
Not that it means that people aren't hurting, and not that it means it's not on their mind, but we've gone through a process of really working with our community, and we've had structure planning sessions. We've had Hepburn together, and we have told our community and those key people in the community that this is why we're doing it. This is why we have to do it. And so I guess the groundwork is what's important.
Do you think maybe once the rate notices go out, though, that there might be more recognition or awareness of this, and that's when your phone might start ringing?
Oh, I'm sure it will.
Yeah.
One of the biggest issues has been the emergency services levy.
Yes.
We're a rural shire, and we've had massive power lines planned to go across our valuable farmland. But in addition to that, we've now got farmers that are getting a bill for $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 for the emergency services levy. All right, it's been cancelled for 1 year because of the drought and other things, but that'll exercise their mind. That when that goes out, it'll have that massive figure, and our rates will pale into insignificance.
Yeah. And you will, I assume, be following the lead of others in having very clear delineation on your rates notices of that levy and the fact that it's being collected on behalf of the state.
We certainly will. Why should we cop the flack? I mean, I've just got a letter from the assistant treasurer to say they're going to give us a whole $50,000 to help us collect it. I mean, that'll go a long way, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
but anyway, at least it's a little bit.
I think your tongue's firmly in your cheek there, Don.
Oh, I think so.
Just going back to the higher rates and the suggestions by some, I mean, there's been some fairly vocal commentary about a historical issue there with the REX, the investigation that was done by the local government inspectorate, and the fact that no report was ever formally released. And I understand that's due to some legislative restraints on the inspectorate. But it was ultimately leaked and led to quite a bit of public discussion and consternation. What's your take on all of that with the hindsight now that you've had a few months to reflect?
Well, it wasn't any surprise to me because I voted not to buy the REX in the first place. I
Right.
voted not to give it any budget to continue. And in the end, I voted to stop the project. And we actually self-reported what was going on at the REX, first to IBAC, and IBAC handed it over to the inspectorate. Now, there was a long investigation into the goings-on at the REX. And, of course, it's okay to say councillors weren't aware. I certainly was aware that you can't put out something and say it's going to cost $1 million and then spend $9 million. That just doesn't add up. But people think that it was the REX that's caused the rate issue. It's actually not. The project stopped in 2019. Most of that money had been paid by then, and we sold the REX for $3.7 million. And we did lose money because we actually paid $6 million for it.
Yeah.
So, but when you take it into context, our shire, we were flooded out in one of our biggest towns. We had storm damage that was horrendous. And we lost 3.4 million. I know in the scheme of a big city council, metropolitan council, that's not much. But it is when you add it up. So we couldn't recover 3.4 million of that. So the government gives you certain money and you can claim some insurance money, but we were out of pocket by that amount. That was one of the biggest knock to our budget. And quite frankly, we identified that without all that, we were still going to be $4 million down each year if we kept doing what we do. I think we were number 60 out of 79 of the lowest rating councils in Victoria. Even with this rate rise, we'll be now 46th.
Right.
And when amalgamation happened, of course, there was little thought. I think we finished up being the camel, and some councils called us the platypus because we inherited communities. Every community that we inherited had a major town hall. We had a major swimming pool. Every town had a swimming pool, with the exception of Creswick, of course. But we had 3 major swimming pools to maintain, all built in the 60s, all now requiring a rebuild if we continue with them. So, and with a population, I think we've got around 10,000 ratepayers and a population of 16,000. I mean, it's pretty hard to do much from there because we don't rate base.
Yeah, so you raised some important points about ongoing sustainability there, and you're not going to be able to get this sort of rate increase through on a regular basis. So what are your thoughts about the longer term sustainability of a community like Hepburn?
Well, it's going to be very difficult, Chris. And what we did is, in addition to the rates, you always hear people saying, oh, councils are top heavy. We made the decision to get to the 4 million that we need, and we would cut 2.6 million. We cut 1.5 million the year before. So coupled with that, we believe that we can become leaner. We're a council that works with its neighbours too. So we're part of the Greater Ballarat area and also Loddon. And we're looking to form partnerships with those neighbouring councils to help us deliver some services. They're struggling as well. I mean, local government is struggling, Chris, across the board. I mean, there will be some that, well, City of Ballarat didn't put their rates up this year. I think that'll have a long-term effect, but that's their business. But it's going to be difficult for smaller rural councils to survive.
Yeah, we've spoken to the Deputy Mayor of Ballarat about that very issue for another edition of this program. Don, are you a proponent that at some point further amalgamations of councils in Victoria needs to be seriously considered?
I am. I do think that we need to do, first of all, economy of scale, but then we need to also come to the understanding that we just can't go on like we are. And our community, if we do go on like that, our community will not be able to get the things that it needs and wants. I mean, there's needs, and that's pretty basic. But our community wants things. We're a major tourist destination, and the tourists come here, they don't want to see everything run down. They want to see our beautiful gardens. They want to come to our bike tracks, which incidentally I'm told are the best in the world, the bike tracks. Now, they want to come and see things, and we need to build on those things. Now, can we do that into the future? Maybe we can't. And we have to seriously consider all options, not just one. We've got to take a global view of it, I think.
What do you think would make sense in terms of amalgamation in your part of the state?
Oh, look, I haven't thought a great deal about it, Chris, but there's some obvious. There's our shire, by the way, is we go from Trentham across to Clunes. People in Trentham have a vastly different idea of things to what they do in Clunes.
Yeah.
Daylesford and Creswick are like chalk and cheese. So we don't have a commonality, if you like. And if we did, it might be easier.
Yeah.
So for example, Creswick people, we're only 20 minutes from Ballarat. And whenever we say, oh, well, we'll do this and we'll do that, they say, oh, well, you've got something 20 minutes up the road. The government says that often to us.
Yeah.
Well, what is that for? Ballarat's only up the road. Well, I say to them, well, we don't pay rates to Ballarat.
True.
So that's ultimately we'd have to look at all the options, and that's one of the options.
Yeah.
And it may not be that we just, as a whole shire, that we merge. I mean, some of our people in Trentham want to go to the Macedon Ranges Shire, for example.
Mm.
Treks, as they're calling themselves.
Right.
They want to, some,
Yeah.
they want to head off there. Now,
Yeah.
but it's only talked about, and really a sensible conversation is how do we manage into the near future and medium term with what we've got.
Yes, true. One other issue I just wanted to touch on with you briefly before we wrap up, Don, and that is, I guess it sort of came out of the leaking of the Rex report. There was a rise of some pretty unsavoury commentary, some attacks on councillors and council staff that you took a stand on. Has that all died down now?
No, it hasn't. And
No?
one of the difficulties for us is, I'm a reasonably tough cookie. And I sometimes get a bit of fun out of some of the things people write, to tell you the truth. But our staff don't.
Yeah.
And retention of staff is very difficult when you've got, and look, I must say, Chris, it's not the whole community. It's 4 or 5, and I call them disaffected protagonists. They want to find anything to belt the council up. And they do it. And they're mostly people who try to get planning permits through where they shouldn't. They get disaffected because they say, well, I want that. Well, you can't have it. And then they abuse the staff. And we've got staff off work. But not only that, we've got Ballarat and Macedon Ranges and Bendigo not too far away. We get a planner, and that's one of our weaknesses, our planning.
Mm.
And they can go and get $30,000 more a year and not get abused. So why would they stay at Hepburn Shire?
Yeah.
And that's one of our biggest difficulties, retaining quality staff.
Is this the worst period of the civility issue that you've seen in your time as a councillor?
Absolutely. And I see it. I do have a look at Facebook pages, and it's on the rise. And people just don't get it that it's not okay. I mean, we're very aware of what bullying and harassment is. We're aware of what stalking is, but some people don't care. The majority of people do, but it's only those few that make it very, very difficult. And they'll be the same sort of people that are in, the Yarra Ranges, Sire or Melton or someone. We've all got them.
Mm. Is there a solution to this?
Well, I think in my case, what's happened is that people know me very well, and a lot of people now are standing up to them and saying, "Come on, get over yourself. This is just rubbish, and you know it." And it's easy from where I sit because a lot of the community are behind me. I'd hate it to happen to some of the new councillors who perhaps have only got a very low voter base.
Mm.
Out of 10,000 votes, I got 2,500 last time. I mean, that means across the board I had a lot of support.
Yeah.
And that's not to be cocky, but I feel sorry for the person who got 700 votes, and if they attack them, they don't have a big base to come in behind them.
Yeah, and it puts people off who are observing this from putting their hand up in future election cycles, doesn't it? Because they think, why would I expose myself to that?
Well, a couple of the last couple of times I, of course, wanted to retire, and I've gone around the community to try and find a few really good candidates. And people say, "Have you seen Facebook lately?
Yeah.
Do you think I want to put up with that?"
Mm.
And I say, look, it's not a problem, but to them it is. It's a big thing to them.
You could always not look at Facebook, couldn't you? That's one.
I get a
one
bit
answer.
of fun. Actually, I shouldn't admit this, but I actually get a bit of fun out of their stupidity.
Yeah.
We call it a warped sense of humour.
So you say you've tried to retire a couple of times. Are you going to try again at the end of this
Well, I
electoral
won't be
cycle?
running next time.
You won't, definitely?
Definitely, absolutely. categorically. I mean, you've got to know. You don't want to be the horse that dies in the shafts. Um, I'm 77. I'm 78 this year, Chris.
Yeah.
I mean, and look, actually, last election we did have a few new councillors who said they weren't going to nominate, and then they did at the last minute. And after I'd already nominated, so look, I'm pretty confident that we'll have a good spread of councillors.
Let's hope that's the case. You'll get to 2 decades by the end of the term, Don, which I'm sure has a nice round number and feel to it for you.
Some people said that 2 decades is like 4, and if you're in the Hepburn Shire, I don't subscribe to that. I think the Hepburn Shire is a great community. Overall, they're a fabulous community. They're different, but there's a lot of talent in our world, artists and artisans, tradespeople. We've got just about everything. So I'm pretty confident about the future, wherever that may be.
That's a good note to end on. Thanks for the chat, Don. I really enjoyed it. Nice to meet you, and all the best for the rest of the term.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
Don Henderson, the Mayor of Hepburn Shire Council. Now on VLGA Connect, I'm pleased to welcome in the Manager of Compliance and Environmental Health at the City of Whittlesea, Ryan Allott. Hello, Ryan. Welcome.
Morning, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you on the program. I wanted to catch up with you today about an initiative I noticed that's rolling out there at the City of Whittlesea, where you're making services available to people who are caring for stray cats. And I'm sure there's a really good reason behind this initiative. Can you tell us about it and where the ideas come from?
Thanks, Chris. The targeted cat desexing program that we're trialling at the moment is an initiative that's funded by the state government in a number of regions throughout Victoria that are struggling with the semi-owned and unowned cat population. I guess a good piece of context there is that we are struggling to manage the cat population in Victoria. There are something like 900,000 sociable cats that are semi-owned, which is a category that applies to animals that might not necessarily have an owner as such, but might be reliant on people, such as stray cats being fed in community. And that number continues to grow. We know that in Victoria there are 230 odd thousand registered cats. So there's a significant gap between, I guess, the traditional owned cats that we are aware of and are registered, and that population that continues to grow. So it's a
So I just want to clarify that. So 230,000 registered cats, 900,000 semi-owned cats, you're saying. Is that right?
The semi-owned / pets that aren't registered. So there's a significant...
But aren't registered, yes. Okay, so that includes cats that, people haven't done the right thing and registered them. But it doesn't include feral cats. Do we know how big that population is?
Look, it varies depending on geographically in Victoria. Feral cats are, for us in Whittlesea, are probably, I wouldn't say, a significant issue for us. So look, a feral cat is a declared pest species that is completely devoid of any kind of social behaviours. It's unable to be handled. We don't generally have that issue for us, and that's probably more to do with our urban interface and the like.
Yes. Okay, so it's a significant number of cats that either don't have an owner or aren't registered, and you're looking to try and cap the numbers of cats that are out there breeding uncontrolled by introducing some of these services to people. Tell us about what's on offer to these folks.
So as part of this program, I guess we're really aiming to have those individuals come forward in community that might be caring for a cat or a number of cats, like feeding them or interacting or engaging, providing some kind of enrichment to them, but don't traditionally own them. So I guess the program aims to, encourage community to convert towards ownership, whereby we subsidise the desexing of the cat. and then return it to the care of that individual, and then it becomes owned in a traditional sense. I suppose the rationale behind that is targeting the overpopulation, but then there's also the welfare perspective as well. We know that sort of the semi-owned and unowned population, a lot of the data tells us that from a welfare perspective, that population's only about 50% are likely to live more than a year, because of things like road trauma and disease and the like. So there's a number of elements to it.
Yeah. Has this been tried elsewhere? Where does this idea come from?
It's one of the initiatives coming out of the Victorian Cat Management Strategy, which was launched officially in January this year, I believe. There have been some smaller scale trials in different municipalities across Victoria, but to my knowledge, this is one of the first that targets that sort of semi-owned population. I know for us at Whittlesea for some time, we've had subsidised desexing programs for owned cats. We've had things like cat curfews implemented and cat confinement restrictions brought in over the last couple of years. We've seen them have some improvement on, I guess, the level of nuisance complaints we're receiving from community. But the issue with the sheer volume of cats, particularly with the seasonal and cyclic breeding patterns of them overwhelming our pound and shelter services throughout Victoria, I suppose ordinarily doesn't come from those owned cats as such. So I guess this is trialing another tool to see whether we can measure the impact that it has and reassess.
Yeah. So realistically, how many people do you think in Whittlesea might put their hand up and come to you for these services and admit that they've been looking after a stray cat in some respect?
Look, at this point, it is very early days in the program. We have identified, we have had a few community members come forward to participate in the program, and we're sort of starting to ramp up our targeted, I guess, comms and marketing, I guess, towards the program so that we can look to, I guess, encourage those individuals to come forward. So definitely, I think, early days, but we certainly are looking to ramp up our level of proactive engagement in terms of identifying those in community that might be caring for semi-owned and unowned populations. We've done quite a bit of work with the data that we have to sort of heat map the issue, and we know that it is becoming more and more concentrated as our municipality grows, and that's probably a unique context for us in terms of being a growth corridor. So we sort of see that that population or that the increased population further north as we continue to develop.
Yeah. So Ryan, how long's the trial running for, and when do you expect to see some measurable outcomes, I guess, that you'd be able to say it's either been successful or not?
So the trial will continue to run until the end of this financial year, so June 2026. We hope to, by December of this year, I guess, have a very rich data set to really evaluate the program against and see how it's been tracking in terms of whether this is an initiative that is adding value in terms of targeting the issue that we have. But early days, we're interested to hear from community. It's a at the end of the day, the overpopulation of cats is a significant challenge for all councils and rescue organisations across Victoria, and this is about trialing a measure to see whether or not it's something that adds value there. So,
yes. So, look, well done to the City of Whittlesea for giving this a go. Let's hope it does bear fruit in some respect. And as you say, there's some other councils, I think, involved as well, and we might see this become more broadly applied in the future. Thanks for telling us all about it.
No worries, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Ryan Allott with us there from the City of Whittlesea.
And that's it for this week's VLGA Connect. I hope you've enjoyed the program. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and on your podcast player Also, just a reminder that registrations are now open for the VLGA's annual Mayoral Leadership Program, which will be taking place later in the year. Under the new Victorian Government reforms, it's now mandatory for all mayors and deputy mayors to undertake training at the start of their mayoral term. Our full program will be held on Friday, the 28th of November at the Monash Conference Centre in Melbourne. Places are filling fast, but if you book by close of business today, you will receive an additional 10% off the listed prices. We look forward to being back with you next week for another episode of VLGA Connect. Until then, have a great week and bye for now.